Good morning, everybody. It's 10:01, and we're going to commence the meeting. So this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is being called to hear applications under the Planning Act for minor variances and/or consents. This is a statutory public meeting. Anyone having an interest in any of these applications may make oral or written submissions for the committee's consideration. The committee will then render a verbal decision this date, and the applicants or agents will receive a copy of the committee's decision in writing via email within 10 days of the meeting. Each application will proceed by the same procedure. The planning coordinator and staff will introduce the application. The staff recommendation is outlined in the report, which was posted on the City of Kitchener's website Friday prior to the meeting. The chair, myself, will then advise the committee of late written submissions circulated to the committee of the meeting that should be taken into consideration. The chair will then confirm with the applicant or the agent if they have reviewed the staff report and whether they are in support of the staff recommendation. Then the chair, myself, will invite parties in opposition to make oral submissions. The committee and myself ask that parties providing oral submissions try to keep their comments short and avoid repeating comments that have already been stated by other parties. The committee will then ask the applicant or parties in opposition any questions. The chair will then provide the opportunity for the agent or applicant to provide further comments, if any. At that point, the committee members may ask questions of staff, and finally, the committee will pass a motion to approve, reject, or defer the application. So the first matter of business is a vote to accept the last meeting's minutes of March 21, 2023 as accepted. If I can get a motion on the floor.
Motion on the floor.
Yep, Member Gunham. And then Member Santos second. So all in favor of accepting the minutes as, okay, that passes unanimously. So can the Madam Clerk please note that. And our first application is a deferred one, and I ask the applicant or agent for the application A 2023-032, that's 22 Hebel Place, please come forward. Huh? No? I apologize for the applicant. At this point, if any of my fellow members have a conflict of interest or pecuniary interest, I ask that they please inform this committee. I think the chair is satisfied that there's none. So at this point, I ask the applicant for Hebel Place to please come forward. Hi. Can the staff please introduce this application?
Thank you. 22 Hebel Place is an application that was deferred from last month's committee meeting. The applicant had considered adding a second pedestrian door on the front fascia, which would have required an additional variance, but has now decided against it and provided updated drawings to the committee that show the changes to the floor plan. The requested variance in the application remains the same from last month, and staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report?
Yes, I have.
Yep. Thank you. At this point, I ask any parties in opposition to this application to please come forward. The chair is satisfied. Does the applicant have any comments they'd like to provide to the committee or staff? No.
No, I don't. No.
Thanks. Thank you. So at this point, I open the floor to my members to ask any questions of the applicant or staff. There's none? No. Member Hannon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was one of the reasons why the application was deferred, and I'm pleased to see what's been done with the internal renovations, so fantastic. There's no comments from the committee. I'm happy to move the staff recommendation.
Can I get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thanks, Member Gunham. So all in favor of the motion on the floor? No. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you. At this point, I ask the applicant for A 2023-040, that's 254 Wellington Street North, please come forward. And then once the applicant's forward, can I get staff to introduce the application, please?
Thank you. It's 245 Wellington Street North.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So yeah, the application is requesting a reduction in side yard setback to convert the existing building into a 4-unit multi-dwelling. Planning staff are recommending approval, subject to the conditions from Metrolinx.
Thank you. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report? We have. We have. Yeah, thank you. At this point, I invite anyone in opposition to please come forward and provide submissions. The chair is satisfied that there's no one here to provide submissions. Do my fellow members have any questions of staff or the applicant? Yeah? I need you to get the button here. Yeah, it's right.
I forgot we were in council chambers. Just a quick question, Mr. Chair, through you to staff. Is this application going through site plan?
Through the chair, no. Changes in Bill 23 mean that anything with 10 residential units or less do not require site plan approval.
Okay. That's all for now.
Question for the applicant and then a follow-up to staff. Are you actually happy with the Metrolinx condition?
I think it's a reasonable condition to place on it. And then in discussing, I've discussed with the owner the exact mechanisms for dealing with that, but we expect somebody to be registered on title and then like a sample tenant agreement so that they understand.
Just to follow up to staff then, what's staff's experience in terms of the timing to get these conditions in, through Metrolinx?
Through the chairs, Metrolinx has recently started asking for these. We have applied them. Committee has removed them from other applications, but it certainly would take some time. It would take cost on the applicant's part. The Metrolinx conditions outline that all costs would be borne by the applicant to register easements in favor of Metrolinx.
Thank you. When it comes to discussion, I'll make my views known again to the committee.
If there's no further questions, I'll open the floor to debate and I'll send it back to Member Hanna to start our famous discussion.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about these conditions. The applicant, I think, is going to find it's fairly time-consuming and costly to put these easements in place. This is a considerable distance from the actual rail line, and again, I just think it's a cover-your-butt kind of a condition, and I'm not particularly in favor, so if it's moved, I would like it to be moved without the conditions.
I, like Member Hanna, would prefer that the Metrolinx condition not be in the motion on the floor if and when Gundon comes forward. Member Gundon?
Through the chair, based on Member Hanna's comments, does staff have any concern for those conditions to be removed?
Through the chair, no, we do not.
Thank you.
I look forward to a motion. Yep, Member Santos?
I'll make a motion to approve with removing the conditions from Metrolinx.
Second? Yep, Member Gundon, second. So if there's any debate on the motion on the floor, or we'll just go to a vote. So all in favor of the motion on the floor? As amended, yes, thank you for the reminder. So the motion as amended is approved unanimously, so thank you. Can we please have the applicant for A 2023-041, that's 45 Bond Street, please come forward, and can staff introduce this when they're able to?
Thank you. 45 Bond is an application requesting variances for reductions to lot area, lot width, required parking, parking setback, and a small increase in driveway width. This would be to facilitate the construction of a detached additional dwelling unit in the rear yard. Planning staff are recommending approval.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. So at this point, I invite members of the public that wish to provide oral submissions to please come step forward. The chair is satisfied there's no one here to provide any feedback, so I open the floor to my fellow members to ask questions of staff or the applicant. Yep, Member Hannah?
Just a quick question to the applicant. The 2 parking spaces for the 3 units, how do you expect to control the 1 unit not having a car?
The new unit will be, I'll be advertising it as a 1-bedroom without parking provisions within the lease. I'll also be including 3 Class A parking spaces in the existing shed that's on the property, which will be accessible, one of those bike parking spaces potentially too for the lease holder.
Thank you very much. I just had a quick follow-up for staff, seeing that we have our acting director here as well. When the ADU study was done, how many thousands of properties in the city would qualify without variances? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Through the chair, without variances in terms of lot width and lot area? I believe it was about 40,000.
Thank you, staff. I think just so we can get a motion on the floor to open debate, someone? There you go, Ken. Yeah, what's our motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've reviewed this report. I find the conditions and concerns to be very minor, except for one which is not so minor. So I am in support of this application to approve the variances for this additional dwelling unit. So if you want, I can make that a motion.
Yep.
Okay, I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Thank you. Can I get a second for the motion on the floor? Yep, Member Gundry, second. So just open debate. I like this application. I think the concerns are very minor. And I hope my fellow members share my views. So if we can put it to a vote, unless anyone wanted to debate, I think we're ready for a vote. Yeah, Member Hannah?
Yeah, just for the record, I'm going to support the application as well because there's nobody here in opposition, but I'm just concerned about precedent because the only rationale for supporting this is based on kind of bike parking and you're close to a transit route. I think every property in the city could probably comply. There's lots of properties that could comply without any variances, but I think the applicant has things well in hand, and I was happy with his answer, so I will be supporting too.
Thank you, Member Hannah. I think I'm going to put this to a vote. So all in favor of the motion on the floor? Yep, it passes unanimously, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, can I have the applicant for A 2023-042, that's 100 Montego Crescent, please come forward, and can I have staff please introduce this application?
Thank you. Application is requesting an increase in driveway width for a semi-detached dwelling on a 9-meter wide lot. The site had received permissions from committee in December for reduction in side yard setback and parking setback to the front lot line. Planning staff is recommending refusal of the application as it cannot meet the 4 tests set out in the Planning Act.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report?
Yes.
Are you in support of the staff report, or?
Opposing it.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, I ask any members of the public to please step forward if they wish to provide any submissions. The chair is satisfied there's no one here to provide submissions, so I open the floor to my fellow members at this point to ask questions of staff and the applicant. Yep, Member Gundry.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just pose this to the applicant. I guess the rationale behind why you're asking for the additional driveway width, if you could just maybe run us through that so that we can make an informed decision. So.
Yeah, for sure. So the applicant, if this goes through, wants to have a in-home business of a hair salon. So that's why we need the 2 parking spaces. So the current driveway does not provide the width that we need for side-by-side parking spaces. So to increase it just by 0.7 meters would allow both parking spaces to be side-by-side, which would meet the requirement for the in-home business for a hair salon.
And just follow up to that. So the home occupation would just be a single employee with a single client at any given time, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So in essence, you're looking to have an additional parking spot for clients, I assume?
Yes, for a single client, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Member Hannon?
Yeah, just a quick question of the applicant. I actually do recall this addition originally. At the time, there wasn't really any mention of the hair salon. Was this just a second thought as to what you would use the addition for, or did you plan to do the hair salon right away?
It's a second thought. So the homeowner decided that if she's able to, she would like to use that addition as a space for her salon.
Can we get a motion on the floor so we could debate? Yep.
Before we get into the motion, Mr. Chair, this is my first meeting at the Committee of Adjustment in quite some time, and I'm wondering if staff could give me a little bit more of a reason why they are recommending refusal. I know that they have stated that it is not in compliance with the 4 tests, but I'm wondering if they could help me understand that a little better.
Through the chair, the new zoning bylaw 2019-051 has stricter regulations for driveway width in order to maintain a streetscape that's attractive and not dominated by automobile storage. So the 50% in areas outside of the central neighborhoods, 40% driveway width in central neighborhoods, we're looking to maintain those driveway widths. We think that anything above that, in terms of increasing to a second parking space, especially for narrow lots like semi-detached, which are 7.5 to 9 meters, 5.2 meters out of that 2 parking spaces is too much for a lot of that width.
Thank you. So if I can condense that, the reason is that it would be incompatible excuse me, incompatible streetscape with the rest of the neighborhood. Is that a general?
Not necessarily incompatible with the rest of the neighborhood. It's just going forward for any neighborhood, any lot having less than 50% of your lot width used for automobile storage in the front.
Thank you.
Member Gundrum, sorry.
Through the chair, just a follow-up question for the applicant, and I guess I'll just be pretty blunt. If this variance is denied, would this compromise the ability for the home occupation to actually be there? Is it entirely contingent upon this being approved, or would there be a way to make that happen without this additional driveway width?
So with talking with the planning department, this was the only option this is the only thing that's setting us back from having a home occupation of the hair salon. So if this does not go through, the homeowner would not be able to have her hair salon in the house.
Just for the sake of debate, can we get a motion on the floor so this my members and I can debate? Yep, Member Hannon?
Yeah, I just want to clarify again with staff, by putting a motion on the floor, that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't vote against it. Can I get that clarification?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, for the sake of debate, I'll move that the motion get on the floor, but I do have comments because I'm not going to be supporting the staff position.
Thank you, Member Hannon. Can I get a second? Yep, Member Gundrum, thank you. So I'll start the debate. I'll cheat as chair a little bit. I don't support the staff recommendation either. I'm in approval of this. To be frank, as it is, this is more of a technicality. There's already room for the parking on the driveway, and to be frank, we're just kind of rubber stamping this so that someone can start their home business, and I think it's a very minor impact on the surrounding neighborhood. Yep, Member Hannon?
Yeah, I'll second that as well. And again, in fairness to staff, I've been critical of applications in the past that pave their entire front lawn. In this case, we're looking at probably about a 2-foot extension, and I fully expect that the homeowner will maintain the lawn. It's certainly not the worst case scenario that I've ever seen, and I'm fully supportive of home occupations as well. So again, I won't be supporting the motion on the floor.
Yeah, I think you.
So if we turn this down, we can then add another motion to approve the application. So
Okay, I get it. So let's do that. If there's any further debate? Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm a little confused. What is the motion on the floor right now? That this,
to refuse the application.
to refuse the refusal?
No, to refuse the application. We just have to put the staff recommendation on the
So
floor.
you're in support of staff's recommendation? I'm confused, sorry.
Okay, I'll help you out. I'll help you out, Bob.
Seniors moment.
Yeah, I know. I just clarified that even though I've put the motion on the floor, I can actually vote against it, okay? But we have to get it on the floor for debate, so.
So that means you are moving the staff report as presented?
The motion on the floor is to do that. I will be not supporting it.
Gotcha.
So let's vote on the motion on the floor. All in favor? So no, and then we'll vote all in opposed to the motion on the floor. Okay, good. So now can we get a second motion?
Mr. Chair, I would prefer that the application be approved. I don't have any wording in front of me that would allow that, but hopefully staff can, instead of just saying be refused, same resolution, but be approved.
Does staff have any problem with that motion? No? So can I get a second for Member Hanna's motion? Yep, Member Gundrum second. So I doubt there's any further debate, so all in favor of the motion on the floor? Yep, and it's carried unanimously, so thank you very much. Can I please have the applicant for A 2023-043, that's 300 Country Stone Crescent, and can I please have staff introduce this application, please?
Yes, this application is requesting variances for reductions in lot area, lot width, and parking in order to construct a detached additional dwelling unit in the rear yard. Planning staff are recommending approval.
Thank you, staff. I'm just a little confused because I can see that it's to be deferred. Can staff please provide some?
Yeah, sorry. Through the chair, staff, I believe another thing has come up with a home business in this property. The applicant can confirm, and they're looking to sort out other issues with adding a home business as well to this property, which could require additional variances.
Okay, so I guess can the applicant, have they reviewed the recommendation and do you have any comments about it?
Yeah, we'd like to defer it
Okay.
because there is a home business currently in there that's not supposed to be in there, so they're trying to figure that out before we go through with this minor variance, because we don't want that included in the minor variance. So there's just a couple of technical issues that the landlord has to, or the homeowner has to figure out before we can go through this, because we don't want that part of the application.
Okay, so,
I'll make the motion to defer the item, but just to ask another question, how much time do you need?
To July 18th meeting.
Madam Clerk, is there any problem with that?
So I'll make a motion to defer to the July 18th meeting.
Yep, so can I get a second for Member Santos' motion? Yeah, Member Gundner? So all in favor? It carries unanimously, thank you. Can I please have the applicant for A 2023-044, that's 230 Black Walnut Place, please come forward, and can I please have staff introduce this application?
Thank you. This application is requesting to allow the use of a catering service establishment within a single detached with an additional dwelling unit, commonly known as a duplex. Staff are recommending approval.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So at this point, I ask any members of the public who wish to provide comment to please come forward. The chair is satisfied there's no one here to provide comments, so I open the floor to my fellow members to ask the applicant and staff. Member Gundner?
Through the chair, just for the applicant and for clarification, and I think I saw this in the staff report, but the intent for the home business, there's no traffic coming on and off site with any third parties. It would just be producing and then delivering from the site, correct?
Correct. It would just be my wife and myself that would be the deliverers. There would be nobody coming to the home. It would just be strictly delivery.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Member Hannah?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for staff, and then maybe the applicant can follow up as well. The way I read the resolution, it would control the home occupation to a maximum of 18 square meters, so if the homeowner decided to go up a little bit more than that, they would have to come back. Is that fair?
Through the chair, that's correct. We've isolated the 18 square meters as to what the applicant has told us they're proposing to use as of right now.
And Mr. Applicant, are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I believe so. We already have it designated a single room in our upstairs, and it will all be contained.
Okay, perfect. And just a quick clarification for staff. The definition in the bylaw is home occupation, and it's written in the resolution as home business. Do you have any issue if I change that to say home occupation?
Through the chair, no, that's correct. It should be home occupation.
Just for the sake of getting things on the floor, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to move the staff recommendation as amended to say home occupation for discussion.
Madam Clerk, did you note the change? Yeah, thank you. So can I get a second for Member Hannah's motion? Member Gundrum, second. So the floor is open for debate. I have no issue with the application, so I think we can go to a vote. So all in favor of the motion as amended on the floor? And it passes unanimously, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then I do believe our next applicant is running a little late. I will call out for A 2023-045. They're here? Yeah, so can that applicant please come forward? And then when ready, staff, please introduce this application.
Thank you. This application is for a reduction in setback for a parking space to facilitate the conversion of a garage into an additional dwelling unit. Staff are recommending approval.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report? Thank you, and I open the floor to any members of the public who wish to provide comment. Chair satisfied that there's no one here to provide comments, so I open the floor to my members, to fellow members, to ask questions of staff and the applicant at this point. I don't think there's any questions, so, yep.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very straightforward application, and a variance from 6 meters down to 5 is very minor. So I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Can I get a second for the motion? Oh, Member Santos speech here, Member Gundrum, sorry. So I open the floor to debate, but I'm in support of the motion. I think it's very, very minor. So unless there's anyone who wanted to provide further comment, I'm going to say we vote on it. So all in favor of the motion? And it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Can I please have the applicant for A 2023-046, that's 74 Carnaby Crescent, please come forward, and can I have staff introduce this application? Unless...
This application is to build a rear yard addition to an existing triplex to construct a 4th unit with a garage on the main floor. Variances for side yard building and deck and floor space ratio increase are requested. Staff are recommending approval.
Thank you, staff. And can the applicant please state their name for the record and whether or not they've had a chance to review the report?
Matthew Rozeka with Polo Corp, and we are in support of the report.
Thank you. I open the floor for any members of the public who wish to provide comment, and it doesn't seem like there are any, so at this point I open the floor to my fellow members to ask questions of staff and the applicant. Yeah, Member Hannah?
I have a quick question for the applicant or clarification from staff. I think the building code is going to require you to have a 1.2 meter side yard for those windows for the new unit. Right now you're showing 0.9. You've also got a 6.7 meter kind of drive aisle. Would you be open to shifting that to 6.4 and then making the addition 1.2 to get away from any building code requirements? And I guess I asked that clarification of staff as well.
Through the chair, the variance is requesting 0.9 meters, and we are in support of that. If the interior layout could be redesigned so that bedrooms are facing the other way, or that rooms on that side, such as bathrooms and other rooms that don't require windows, we'd still be in support of the application as it is now. But in terms of reduction in drive aisle width, my colleague Dave Seller from Transportation Services can speak to that.
Through the chair, could you repeat what the drive aisle width you were requesting?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, to staff. I know that there's a drive aisle that's 3.4 around the existing building, but where the addition's being constructed, the drive aisle is actually 6.7 meters wide. That's pretty excessive. It could be 6.4 if you shifted everything over. And then I like the addition, it's just I want the windows there.
Yeah, I don't have any issue reducing the drive aisle to 6.4 meters.
Throw it back to you as the applicant. Have you talked to building department about code?
Through you, Chair, this was something that was raised through the circulation, and something that we anticipated on handling at building permit, understanding that the floor plans that were submitted were effectively draft, and we would be working towards reconfiguration of the floor plans in order to ensure that it's in conformity with the Ontario Building Code. Having said that, the proposal that you've put forward could be a reasonable solution if staff are willing to support a reduction in the minimum required drive aisle for a single loaded driveway.
Can I ask staff? I don't see any variance for the 3.4. Like, there's no variance if we go down to 6.4.
Just a clarification through the chair, the 6.7 meter drive aisle width is in the urban design manual. It's not a zoning regulation, so it wouldn't require a variance. Our transportation staff have just indicated that they would be in support of that reduction to 6.4. It wouldn't require any further variances.
Just for my fellow members here, I'm actually in support of the whole application. I'm just trying to make it a nicer design with windows to bedrooms and stuff like that, but we can certainly support it as is, and he can make the modification at a later date if he wants, so.
We should put a motion on the floor so we could debate. That would be the same thing we did before. We'll kill the motion if we don't like it. So if I get a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'll put the motion on the floor to approve as is.
Can I get a second? Yeah, Member Santos seconds. I don't share your concern, although I appreciate it would provide bigger flexibility to the applicant if we just say, yeah, go with the 6.4. So if you guys want to give bigger flexibility to the applicant too, I'm more than happy to kill the motion. Yeah, Member Hanna?
Yeah, just for clarification, I'm dealing with the variance request of 0.9, rather than 1.2, so it has nothing to do with the drive aisle, but if we approve 0.9, he could still shift it to 1.2, because 0.9 is obviously a minimum, so.
All right. Yeah, Member Gundry?
Sorry, through the chair, I would just offer that it's neither here nor there if we approve the 0.9. It still allows them that flexibility to work with an alternate design. I know the building code can be a bit restrictive in some cases with good reason, but I'd be willing to support the motion as is.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think we'll put it to a vote then. So all in favor of the motion, which is as staff recommended? No, passes unanimously, so thank you. Can I please have the applicant for A 2023-047, that's 744 King Street East, please come forward, and then when staff is able, please provide us a recommendation.
Thank you. This application is for a development proposal on a vacant lot on the corner of King Street East and Sterling Avenue. The proposal is for an 8-story mixed-use building with 37 dwelling units and 1 ground floor commercial unit. The application is seeking variances for lot width, rear yard setback, building height, obstruction in the CVT and DVT, ground floor dwelling unit, and parking. Staff are recommending approval, subject to a condition to enter into an agreement to notify users of no parking and to provide subsidized transit passes.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report?
Good morning. Yes, we have had a chance to review the staff report. I do have a little bit more information I'd like to provide. My name is Kate Wills, and I'm an associate with MHBC Planning. I'm here to speak on behalf of our client, Franklin Dunsmuir, SPA. Mr. Stephen Litt, the property owner, is here with me today, and we're in support of the staff recommendation today. Excuse me. The proposed development at 744 King Street in Kitchener plans for an appropriate infill development located within a major transit station area. The lot is currently vacant and was previously a single detached residential unit that was lost to a fire. The lot is currently 476.9 square meters in size and subject to road widenings at King Street and Weaver Street, bringing the total lot area to 352.3 square meters following the widening. The owner is proposing a mixed-use development that is 9 stories in height, 27.5 meters, with an FSR of 4.0. The building's planned with 37 residential units and 1 commercial unit. The unit sizes are very small. They range from 365 square feet in size to 505 square feet. A commercial unit is also provided at grade along the primary entrance along King Street, and that unit is planned at 613 square feet in size. I want to emphasize that the applicant plans that 20% of the units, so 7 units, will operate as affordable housing units, and that the balance of the small units, also we can call micro units, will be rented at an attainable market rate. We have been working with city staff through the site plan application process and have received a conditional site plan approval, which is subject to obtaining approval for the variances before you today. So just to conclude, I'm here to answer any questions in support of the application. I feel like there may be some questions. We did receive some comments from a nearby resident or property owner, and I'm happy to discuss those with the committee today. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Can you provide your name for the record for Madam Clerk?
Sure. It's Kate Wills from MHBC Planning. I'm an associate.
Thank you.
Thanks.
At this point, I open the floor to any members of the public who wish to provide oral submissions. I don't believe there's anybody here to provide submissions, so I ask my fellow members if they wish to ask questions of staff or the applicant's agent. Member Santos?
Thank you. You made reference to the letter in opposition of the development. Just wondering if you have any comments directly associated to that letter.
Yes, thanks for your question. We have reviewed the letter. There were 2 letters, and I think the main concern was the reduction in the parking, because we are proposing parking at a ratio of 0 per unit, including 0 for the commercial. We have worked with Paradigm Transportation Solutions, and they've prepared a traffic impact study, a parking justification study to support the recommendation for the parking reduction. In addition, we're providing transit demand management methodologies to help support the reduction and also help those renting these units. Those transit demand measures include subsidized subsidized transit passes for the next 2 years following occupancy, educational information to the residents for higher order transit and active transportation. And in addition, we're providing 1 bike parking space per unit internal to the building, which is a type A parking space, and additional bike parking spaces to the rear of the building, outdoor for visitors to the site as well. So those are some things that we have will be implementing, and then signing the agreement that was mentioned by staff to warn all the users on the site and occupants that there will be no parking and also no visitor parking.
Member Gundry?
Through the chair, I have to admit I do admire the spirit of what's being attempted here, that I have no doubt that these units will certainly be of a more attainable brand. But I do have concerns about the parking reduction, but more so from a perspective of how do you account for visitors, people staying overnight? Is there any accommodation for overnight parking in the surrounding neighborhood such that you wouldn't cause any major compatibility issues from loading on local streets for visitors? That's my question.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate the question. To answer your question, there is nearby on-street parking available. Mind you, that may not be available overnight during the winter time, but residents are aware that there is no visitor parking as well. That will be noted in their agreement when they occupy their residential unit. In addition, I just want to remind you that these units are very small, like 350 square feet to 500 square feet, and doesn't really leave a lot of room for many visitors at a time.
I just have one more follow-up question through the chair. I call it the daylight triangle. How much encroachment, because I don't have the plan in front of me and I can't recall, how much encroachment into that daylight triangle is being proposed at that intersection? Okay,
So that's relating to the corner visibility triangle. So if the plan, I guess it's not in front of you, is showing at 2.5 by 2.5 meters, and the obstruction would be the support pillar for the building, because the building will extend above it. The building height is 4.5 meters for the commercial component, so as you approach the intersection, it will be higher and open. Please keep in mind that there is a road widening requirement along King Street as well as Sterling Avenue. And if you include these and the understanding that there is no future upgrades anticipated at Sterling Avenue for the actual right-of-way beyond like bike lane improvements, that this right-of-way will generally stay the same. And so if you add in those right-of-ways, the corner visibility triangle is actually met and exceeded. It's just, this is a result of the road widening. In addition, Paradigm Transportation Solutions have also prepared a site distance review where they review the TAC requirements, which is the Transportation Advisory. It's a set of rules that you need to follow. Sorry, I don't have the actual word or the breakdown of the words in front of me, but it does meet the criteria, and in their professional engineering opinion, there are adequate sight lines at this corner intersection.
Thank you.
Yeah, Member Hanna?
Just a quick question for staff, and maybe I'm missing something. It appears that this site is still regulated by 85-1, and there's no mention, at least I can't see it, to the new bylaw 2019-051. What is the status of the new bylaw as it relates to this site, and what would be the new requirements under the new bylaw for parking?
Thank you. Through the chair, the subject lands are still within zoning bylaw 85-1. Because the lands are in MTSA, a major transit station area, new provincial regulations are coming online rapidly that are going to affect our decisions in future zoning of major transit station areas. So the status would be under review by our policy staff. We need to make sure that they're in line with provincial directives, and we would be looking to take those to council at a future date. So the status would be under review, the parking rates and the zoning categories.
Just to follow up through you, Mr. Chairman, what would be the timing for that to go to council, to get council to endorse new ratios?
Through the chair, the timing is targeted for December of this year.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what do you anticipate the parking ratios might be?
Through the chair, we couldn't answer what that would be now. There's lots of discussion about going down to zero in some areas of major transit station areas, depending on how close they are. But Mr. Stevenson, the interim director, is here, and he can add to that.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So as part of the work that we're doing for our Growing Together work, which is all of our MTSA Central Station implementation plan for December of this year, part of that is we've undertaken an affordable housing and missing middle study that will be presented to council on Monday. Preliminary results from that study indicate that requiring parking for small infill sites does significantly add to the cost of construction and limits the ability to intensify certain locations. As a result of that information, we are looking at reducing parking requirements within our MTSA, specifically along regional and city corridor roads. So that's why staff are in support of this. We haven't committed to zero parking within MTSAs, but it's definitely something that we're looking at and leaning towards as we move forward with implementing the zoning and the OP legislation that will implement, the regulations that will implement the new planning framework.
Thank you very much. I'll have other comments because I share my colleagues' concerns about parking during debate. So,
I just had one question of staff. I'm not sure maybe if I've missed this in previous hearings. Have we ever done this GRT EasyGo agreement before? This is new to me unless I somehow forgot about it.
Through the chair, staff have recommended it through site plan applications and other applications, maybe not necessarily a condition through minor variance, but we have worked with the region on subsidized transit passes for other projects.
Thank you. So I think we'll move this to debate on any further questions, so I can get a debate on, or a motion on the floor. I apologize. And like I said, we're not married to any motion that we put on the floor, as we're aware of. Yeah, Member Gundry?
I'll just put forward the motion to approve the application.
As recommended?
As recommended for debate.
Can I get a second? Which again, we're not married. Yep. Thank you. So we have a second, and we can vote it down if we don't like it. So the floor is open to debate. I'll cheat again, and I'll go first. To be frank, I don't like putting this agreement in as a condition to this. This is GRT. You know, I'm a GRT rider, as you guys are aware, and I think it's a little bit arduous to make a landlord have to go to the region and get an agreement for bus passes or LRT passes, I presume. And I hope my fellow members share my concern. It just seems kind of strange that I would put that as a condition. Yeah, Member Gundry?
Through the chair, on that concern, it would just be, to clarify, that would just be for a 2-year period that's in effect, is what I think I heard. It's not in perpetuity.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Yep, Member Santos, I think he got his hand up.
Good. Sorry, Scott. Yeah, like my colleague David there mentioned, I love the spirit and the idea of this project, especially the integration of a commercial space, but I am in opposition of recommendation, just purely in the fact of the parking situation going from 37 to 0, even if it's just a couple spots there, just load and unload. It's just such a busy corner there, and those streets are very, very narrow. I do have some serious concerns there, and what I'm always required here at the committee, though, too, is just those forward tests, and the two I am concerned about, is it minor, going from 37 to 0? And the second, is this appropriate? Just even from like a transition perspective, though, too, a building still of this size to really like low buildings around it and single-family homes. So for those reasons, like, I'm reluctantly opposing this recommendation. I'm having a tough time with it, though, but that's where I stand.
Member Hanna, your turn now.
thank you very much. Again, I agree with my colleagues. I think the intent of the application is heading in the right direction. My issue is it's a prematurity thing, because I don't think we're paid enough to deal with 0 parking spaces in lieu of 37, because council hasn't decided yet what to do with this particular site, or any site, quite frankly, within these major transit stations. It may come back that it is 0 for the tenants, but it might be a requirement for visitor parking for even the commercial or the visitors, and we might have to have a redesign. So I just think that the committee should not be dealing with this type of a recommendation for 0 in lieu of 37 when it's still in transition as for where we're headed with this thing. So I'm going to be not supporting the recommendation either.
Unless there's further debate, I guess we'll have the applicant speak, and just make sure the little light's on for us so we can hear you. And can you state your name for Madam, please?
Stephen Litt, owner of the Land 5 Development Corp. Appreciate the concerns. I'll just
provide you some anecdotes. So our project 3D at King Street, which would be 2 blocks away, we built 0.7 spots per unit, 72 units. We're currently rented at 0.3. And those units are 2.5 times the size of this. So anecdotally, there's not a deep need for parking. What there is a deep need for is housing. We have a massive housing shortage with interest rates that have increased. There's no condo developments going on. Condo developments, new construction, are really secondary rental. So we see cranes in the air today. Those are sort of what remains of development charge exemptions in downtown core. My great fear is that in the next 2 years, you're not going to see any significant building permits being pulled for any infill housing of scale. So I would urge the committee to make the right decisions when it comes forward to a private developer that's got 6 active sites, 900 units in the ground, that wants to build affordable, purpose-built rental. That is a deep community need, and let's not get hung up in red tape and short-term politics and such. So again, I see a desperate need for this sort of housing product, so hopefully we can focus on what matters here. And I mean, this site is like legitimately almost on the light rail train, so yeah, I'm here for questions and discussion. Thank you.
If I can add to that, I just want to remind the committee that these are very small units. They're micro units. 7 of them are affordable housing, and this is much-needed housing in our community. The remainder are very small units and intended to be very attainable in the community, and to slow the process down for these housing would be very unfortunate. There are people that need them. It's in the right location. It's in an MTSA. It's on transit line, transit with bus lines. And very accessible to the core. It's walkable for the residents to pick up their groceries and have all the amenities that they need. I think this just makes sense, and it would be a shame to further delay this much-needed housing in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hanna and Member Santos. In the end of the day, it is, the 4 tests are taken in consideration, all 4 together, and it is a big step going from 37 to none. And just to show my sleeve, I live in an apartment building with no parking spots, and I think it's 65-ish units I counted. And, it just ends up working, and you'd be surprised. That's on a one-way street in downtown Kitchener, and it ends up working. I think the impact will be quite minor personally. The market kind of solves itself. If there's no parking, people aren't going to have a car there. I think we're ready. The motion's on the floor, if Madam Clerk can remind me, is to approve as recommended. So unless my fellow members had any further debate, on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe not so much debate, just a quick couple of comments. Most of these minor variances are minor. I am glad that the applicant and his consultant has clarified the issue of the CVT and DVT issues. I did have a concern with that. I'm really glad to see the applicant is proposing to partner with a nonprofit to provide affordable housing. I do have some experience in the past with affordable housing, and he's absolutely correct. We need much more of this. I'm inclined to agree with the chair on the issue of the parking. I'm kind of sitting on the fence a little bit about this. It can work, and I'm quite sure that people who are living in a 500 square foot apartment aren't going to be driving transport trucks. Mr. Chair, most of my concerns have been addressed through the discussions, and so I'm actually prepared to support this.
Unless Member Hanna or Member Santos, anything else to add? Staff? Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just to clarify for the record, I believe there was a statement that there isn't a loading space. I'm been made aware that there is a service space that's available for loading, deliveries, and drop-offs. I just wanted to make that correction. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. So I'm at this point, I'm going to put it to a vote unless anyone was upset about that. So all in favor of the motion on the floor, which is to approve as recommended by staff, all in favor? And then all opposed? So that was Hanna and Santos opposed, and so that motion carries, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can I have the applicant for A 2023-048, that's 1200 Fisher Hallman, please come forward, and staff introduce this application, please?
Thank you. This application is for a development proposal on a vacant lot on the corner of Fisher Hallman Road and Bleams Road. The proposal is for a 34-story mixed-use building with 313 dwelling units. The applicant is requesting a variance for reduction in parking. Planning staff is recommending approval of the application.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review, and can you please state your name for the record?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee. My name is Scott Patterson from Patterson Planning Consultants, and yes, I have reviewed the staff report.
Thank you. So at this point, I open the floor to any members of the public who wish to provide submissions. I don't believe there's anyone here to provide submissions, so I'll open the floor to my members to ask questions of staff and the applicant. Member Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick question of staff. I read this report several times, and I think what staff is trying to say is there's a disconnect between the current zoning and the current official plan, which would only allow 10 to 14 stories. Can you help me out again, understand why we're supporting 34 stories when one of the tests maintains the intent of the official plan?
Yes, through the chair, there is a disconnect between the current zoning and the official plan. It's a lag. It hasn't caught up yet because the property is within the Rosenberg secondary plan. We have reviewed this very thoroughly and determined that because the zoning is applicable law, the zoning does not have a maximum building height or FSR, so that building height and FSR is permitted, and the applicant is not seeking a variance for that. The variance is solely for parking, and it's a slight reduction to 0.91 spaces. So we are looking at the application in terms of intent of the official plan through the lens of just the parking variance that's being requested, as the building height and FSR would be as of right in the zoning.
Thank you, staff. Is there any further questions, or can we move this to debate? Member Santos?
I'll make the motion to approve as recommended.
Thank you. Can I get a second for Member Santos' motion? And Member Gundrum? So I'll cheat and start debate. It's funny, again, that I share your concern with the previous application on this one. I'm just wondering how my fellow members feel, because let's be real, the official plan can say, oh, great, this is a major transit area, yada, yada. But when you drive down Fisher Hallman, that is an auto-centric neighborhood. And, the impact isn't going to be minor. The fact is, in the winter, you have nowhere to put your car or anything like that. So I just wonder how my fellow members feel about that. Member Hanna.
I have no concern at all with the parking. I think the parking's going to function fine. Things must have changed since I was a planner, because all the tests would have been everything that's in the official plan. But there's nobody here to oppose it, so I'll probably end up supporting.
Member Santos?
Yeah, born and raised in Kitchener. I remember driving out there. I felt like the middle of nowhere when I was younger. So I can't believe that there's going to be a 34-story tower there, potentially. But I speak in favor of it. I think it meets all four tests, and it is in fact like a minor variance. So I'm in support of this recommendation.
Yep, Member Gunner?
Yep, through the chair, I'm of the opinion that the magnitude of the reduction is manageable. It's not going to be a major reduction that would affect the functionality of the site. And I was a bit surprised to see such a large building in that area, as Member Santos alluded to, and knowing that once upon a time that was probably just farm fields not too long ago. So, but I think the magnitude's appropriate, and I'll be supporting the motion.
So I guess put it to a vote unless there's anything else to say. So all in favor of the motion on the floor? So it passes unanimously. So thank you very much. Can I please have the applicant for A 2023-049, that's 37 Manitou Drive come forward and have staff introduce this one, please.
Thank you. This application is seeking to legalize an existing tradesperson establishment business on site. The site is located on a private road with no frontage onto a public road. The application is seeking a variance for side yard setback and permission under other powers of committee in Section 45(2) of the Planning Act to legalize the use of the lands for a tradesperson establishment. Staff are recommending approval.
Thank you. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the?
Good morning again, committee. Scott Patterson. Yes, I have reviewed the staff report, and I'm here in full support of the staff report and recommendation.
Thank you very much. I open the floor to any members of the public which provide comment. And I don't think there is, so at this point, open the floor to my fellow members to ask questions of staff or the applicant. Yeah, Member Hanna.
Just to the applicant, real quick for my edification, it's a private road that you get access to. Who owns it, and do you have an easement over it? How does it work?
Through the chair to Member Hanna, it is a private road. It's owned by the property owner that is directly to the south and kind of surrounds this property. There are multiple properties that actually access out to Manitou via this private roadway. To the best of my knowledge, there currently isn't an easement over that land. But it is an existing condition that's been in existence for many, many years.
I'm just a little confused of the history of this site, why this application is being brought forward now, if the applicant can just provide any kind of background feedback.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as noted in the staff report, this property contained a house up until 2017. The house was removed, and it currently is used as a tradesperson's occupation or facility, which is a landscape supply company, basically. They also own a property and operate a business just to the west of this. There was a complaint about the nature of the use that spurred on a bylaw review. So from a zoning bylaw review and enforcement perspective, site plan approval was required. We are going through site plan approval for the property, and that necessitated the need for the variance to identify some concerns with the zoning on the property.
So just for the sake of my sanity, the current use, whether or not it complies with the bylaw, absent of that, the current use is storing fill and rocks for a landscaping company.
Again, through you, yes, the use itself is actually permitted in the zoning.
Mm-hmm.
The lot itself does not technically qualify because it doesn't have frontage onto a public street.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Member Gundry?
So through the chair, just a question for Mr. Patterson. So there is a historical pattern of use here which has existed for quite some time, and really there's no fundamental changes that are, in terms of the use, that will be happening moving forward on the site. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. The use of the property will remain as is, but for lack of a better term, through the site plan process, the use will be cleaned up.
Right.
It will conform to zoning. We'll deal with some of the things that should be dealt with to make the site operate properly.
Yeah. So truly this is to formalize the existing situation?
Correct.
Okay. I look forward to a motion on the floor so we can debate. Member Hanna?
I'll move the motion.
Can I get a second? Member Gundry seconds. I don't think there's any debate, so a motion to all in favor of the motion on the floor? Passes unanimously, so thank you very much. Can I please have the applicant for A 2023-050, that's 92 Arnold Street, please come forward, and when staff's ready, please provide us their report.
Thank you. This application is seeking to enclose a front yard porch on an existing single detached dwelling. The proposal requires a variance for front yard setback. Planning staff are recommending approval.
Thank you very much. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the staff report, and do they want to provide any comment?
Yes.
Yep. And can you provide your name for the record too? I apologize.
Brandon Voisin from VTP Contracting.
Thank you. Open the floor to any members of the public who wish to provide comment. I don't think there's anyone is, so I open the floor to my members to ask staff or the applicant. No? If not, can we get a motion? Yep, Member Santos.
I'll make the motion to approve as recommended.
Okay, can I get a second? Yep, Member Gundry second. So I know, I like it. So unless anyone else has any comment on saying I like it, we will put it to a vote. All in favor of the motion on the floor? There we go. Passes unanimously, so thank you. Can I get the applicant for the A 2023-051? That's 110 Clark Ave. Please come forward. And staff, I ask you to introduce this application, please.
Thank you. This application is proposing to construct a front yard addition on an existing single dwelling. A variance is required for front yard setback. Planning staff are recommending approval.
Thank you very much, staff. Applicant, can you please have your name for the record, and if you've had a chance to review the recommendation?
Hi there, my name is Rob Segunovic of JR Design Consultants, and yes, I have had a chance to review.
Yeah, thank you. So I open the floor to any members of the public who wish to provide feedback, and I don't think there's any, so if, nope. Can open the floor to my members? Yep, over here.
I don't have any comment other than I feel sorry for the applicant because they got caught by reams because the property next door has a huge setback, so I'm sorry for you. But I fully support this application. I'd like to make the motion or put the motion on the floor.
Can I have a second for the motion? Yep, Member Gundry. Any debate? No? I'll put it to a vote. So all in favor of the motion on the floor? Yep, passes unanimously too, so thank you. Can I please have the applicant for A 2023-052, that's 306 Wellington Street, please come forward. When staff's ready, I ask them to introduce this application.
Thank you. This application is requesting to convert a dwelling from 2 units to 6 units by constructing a rear yard addition. The applicant is seeking variances for lot width, FSR, and landscaped area. Staff are recommending approval.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review the report? And you gotta get the little red light, push the speak button for us. Thank you.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and then can you please state your name just for the record for Madam Clerk?
Philippe Oliveira.
Did you get that? Thank you. At this point, I open the floor to any members of the public who wish to provide comment. It doesn't seem like there's any, so there's one here. And then when you get a chance, get the little red light on your right here, and then make sure you state your name, please. On your right.
Hi, my name is Sue Hodgins.
Madam Clerk, did you get that? Yeah. Thank you, Sue. Yep. So we're prepared to accept submissions from you.
Okay, so mine is really just about addressing some concerns as we go forward. The one thing that I have concern about is that we have an existing fence right now along the property line. I would consider that that fence would need to remain. I have a apartment complex immediately adjacent, so there would be a new walkway proposed to run right between our buildings, which was going to bring it very close to where my tenants are living. So I have some concerns about noise and traffic in front of their windows because I have ground floor windows there. So the fence would be fairly important for noise and pedestrian control, and also have some concern about surface water. And I think Phil has already, considered most of these things. It's just that I wanted to get it on the record that there are things I'm nervous about.
Thank you very much. Did my members have any questions for the member of the public? Member Hanna got his hand up first.
Just for my clarification, you're at 310 Wellington? Perfect. So I'm looking at their site plan, and there's a grassed area between the existing fence and the sidewalk. So the sidewalk is not abutting right on the property line. You were aware of that?
There it goes. I do see a walkway, and I see a small amount of a grass space, but I don't know if that's right up to the property line, if the fence is going to stay, because my window is the walkway between my window and that existing fence is about 3 feet.
Thank you. The reason I'm asking the question, I will be following up the applicant about the fence, but I just want to assure you that the walkway is not directly adjacent to the property lines, like it's not on the property. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sue, I didn't hear you. I'm not sure my fellow members did as well.
Sorry, so there's like the fence line and then maybe a foot of grass and then a 3-foot walk. So it puts it within 5 feet of my windows. Is that what I'm seeing? Because there's not that much distance between our buildings. Maybe 10 feet, Phil?
Oh, maybe.
Something like that, yeah. I can't quite make it out on this diagram here.
Through the chair, it's a 3-meter setback. The walkway is 1.5 meters, which is about 5 feet. The grass is 1.5 meters, which is about 5 feet.
Thank you.
My mic is working, Mr. Chairman. Can I follow up with the applicant? Just a question for the applicant and then a follow-up to staff. Are you intending to keep the fence?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. And things like this, Mr. Chairman, through staff would normally have been dealt with through site plan approval. Because we can't apply site plan approval anymore, how do we do that through this application?
Through the chair, the zoning regulations are still applicable law, so when they require a building permit, a check will be made to make sure all zoning regulations are being met as they would be done in a site plan application. A visual barrier in the zoning bylaw is required for a parking area, and that would be a 6-foot-high wooden fence, and if there's one existing and the applicant is intending for it to remain, then that would satisfy that zoning requirement.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, I think the fence would be required on the opposite side, the 302, but wouldn't be required on the 310 because there's really no parking there. I just want to ensure that the fence is still going to remain, and I'm thinking I might have to impose a condition.
Through the chair, that's correct. The visual barrier would only be required where that barrier-free space is at the back, that portion of the rear. And yeah, we wouldn't be able to regulate the wooden fence on the other side through zoning.
Yeah, through the chair, I just had a follow-up question. The neighbor at 310 mentioned concerns about drainage, about, during storm events. Would there be a requirement through building permit for grading and drainage plan? And I think it's especially salient given the reduction in the landscaped area that's proposed, if staff could confirm.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Unless there's further questions, I guess we'll put it to a motion on the floor that we can debate on. Member Hannah?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am supportive of this application. I think it's a unique one. It won't be subject to site plan approval again, and therefore things like the grading and drainage and whatnot will be handled through building permit, but not the fencing. So I would like to add a condition that the existing fence between this subject property and 310 Wellington be retained.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion with the
amended motion?
With the condition, yeah.
Member Santos?
Can we ask the applicant what he thinks about that?
Yep.
Sure. The fence actually needs some repair. I'll be fixing that fence as well. So I do intend on having a 6-foot fence there between the two properties because there's parking on the other side at 310 as well. So I just want everything to look clean and finished.
Yeah, so thank you. I don't share the concerns with drainage or the 310 it's completely parking lot in the backyard, and so when I walked by, so was the adjacent church. It meets there's a small reduction in hard surface, doesn't impact the surrounding neighborhood. It's pretty in line with the surrounding neighborhood, to be frank, and there's a massive field right behind. So I'm in support. A little bit. Unless anyone else wanted to say something? I think we'll put it to a vote. So all in favor of the motion as amended by Member Hannah? All in favor, so it passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could I please have the applicant for B 2023-016, that's 73 Second Avenue, please come forward, and can I have staff please introduce this report?
Thank you. This application is requesting to demolish the existing single detached dwelling and sever the lot in two. A duplex dwelling is proposed on both the retained and severed lots. Planning staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions laid out in the staff report. Staff note that the words demolition permit will need to be added to condition 11, and I think the clerk has done that.
Sorry, can staff repeat that last sentence, please? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I believe in the package that went out to committee, condition 11 was missing the words demolition permit. It was that the owner obtain a demolition permit for the existing single dwelling on site prior to the severance moving ahead. So the condition, those words have been added to the condition by the clerk.
I'm seeing condition 11 that says that the owner obtains for the existing dwelling to be demolished. Is that what we're talking about? Sorry.
Yeah, it should say, through the chair, that it should say that the owner obtains a demolition permit for the existing dwelling.
Okay, yes, thank you, thank you. Okay, has the applicant had an opportunity to review the report? Sorry about that.
Good morning. My name is Boban Jokanovic, and yes, I have had the opportunity to review the staff report.
Is there any members of the public here to provide comment or feedback? And I don't believe there is, so I open the floor to my members to ask questions of staff or the applicant. Member Hannon.
Just a quick question for staff. I was confused in the report about the noise conditions recommended by the region, because several of the comments say they weren't enforceable by building code. Is the resolution, the way it's set up, the way you want it to read?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. That clause C has been added to condition 14. So the first two, A and B, is what the region has given us, and C is what we have added to ensure that the responsibility is between the applicant and the region.
Thank you very much. And just for the record and for the applicant's sake, this is one of those ones that I worry in the future about driveway widths. Double duplexes, you're showing a stacked situation. I fully anticipate that you'll want to widen these driveways, which would be in contravention of the zoning bylaw. So I'm just forewarning you, build it as you are proposing it.
That's out of my hands, but I'll make sure I get that information to the owner.
Unless there's any further question, we can get a motion for debate. Yep.
Just a quick question through the chair. Condition 12 relates to tree management plan, I believe. Is the applicant have any concerns about that condition imposed through staff recommendation?
No, I do not have any concerns. This is fairly typical for these type of applications. I've seen that before, and we do have arborists that we work with, so that should not be a problem.
Okay, just wanted to ask the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Get a motion so we can have a debate, or? Member Gagnon?
Yep, I'll put forward a motion to recommend approving the application with the recommended conditions.
And just to be clear, that's with the staff change that we just got.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Can I get a second for the motion? Member Santos beat you, I think. So yeah, second, we'll put it to debate. Since, I'm usually not a big fan of the tree condition, but I think since the applicant has said no problem, I have no problem, so we'll put it for a vote. So all in favor? And so passes unanimously, so thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get the applicant for B 2023-017 come forward? That's 23 and 25 Elmsdale Drive. And when staff's ready, can you please provide us with your report, please?
Thank you. This application is requesting to sever an existing semi-detached dwelling building into two lots. Planning staff are recommending approval subject to the conditions laid out in the staff report.
Thank you, staff. Has the applicant had an opportunity to review? And can you please state your name for the record?
Hi, I'm Valerie Schmidt from GSP Group, and yes, we've reviewed the report and the conditions and are in support.
Thank you. I open the floor to any members of the public. And it doesn't seem like there are any, so I open the floor to my members. Yep, Member Hanna.
Question 4, actually, either the applicant or staff. Condition 4, in order to fulfill that, all you really got to do is confirm the location of the services, and they could, quite frankly, be all on one property. I sent an email, just for the record, to staff saying, why didn't they impose their normal condition, which would read something like, that the owner makes financial arrangements to the installation of new service connections to the severed and retained not provide for independent services to the satisfaction of the city's director of engineering services. Would you be okay if I changed it to that?
Yes, I think that would be satisfactory, yeah, if we changed it. I did talk to the owner, and he did confirm they do have separate servicing, but, yeah.
I looked at that condition and I thought it's very weirdly worded. It makes a comment that they have to have individual services or individual something, but it says to fulfill it, all you got to do is say where they are. And if they're not on the severed and retained, then how do we get them to be separate? But that's just my comment, Mr. Chairman. If you guys want to approve it as it is, go nuts.
The comment is appreciated, I assure you. I don't have any further questions, so I hope Member Hanna puts his motion forward personally.
I'll make a motion to approve with the wording that I suggested. I will provide the wording to the clerk. It's going to say that the owner makes financial arrangements for the installation of new service connections to the severed and retained lots to provide for independent services to the satisfaction of the city's director of engineering services. It's a standard condition imposed, so the wording should be easy.
Madam Clerk, you good? So can I get a second for, yep, Member Gundrum second? So thank you for making the excellent recommendation, and much appreciated, Member Hanna. I'm ready to approve as amended. We'll put it to vote. So all in favor? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Mr. Hanna for finding that. I missed that variance from the standard wording, and so thank you, Mr. Hanna. I will support this.
Try number 2. So all in favor of the motion as amended? Yeah, passes unanimously, so thank you very much. And finally, could I please have the applicant B 2023-18, that's 299 Ottawa Street North, please come forward, and when staff is ready, please introduce this application.
Thank you. This application is requesting to demolish an existing single detached dwelling and sever the lot in two. Each parcel is proposed to be developed with a detached dwelling. Planning staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions laid out in the staff report.
Thank you, staff. Can the applicant please introduce themselves for the record and state whether or not they've had an opportunity to read the report?
Hi, my name is Charlotte Ballack. I am the agent for the application, and we have had a chance to read the recommendation and conditions.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a request to remove the requirement for the tree inventory and preservation plan. That's all.
Sorry, you said to remove the tree preservation plan.
Yeah, condition 13A, if possible.
Thank you. So at this point, I open the floor to members of the public that wish to come forward. No, I don't think there's any members here. So do my fellow members have questions of staff and the applicant? Member Gundry.
Through the chair, just, I guess, a question directed more towards Mr. Seiler. Is there any concern, like, given Ottawa as a main corridor, consequence of the severance would be to have two driveways where you otherwise have one. Is there any major concerns from a traffic perspective with respect to the application?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Ottawa is a regional road, and I don't feel comfortable commenting on their behalf.
Okay. Through the chair, my apologies, Mr. Seiler. That was an oversight on my part. So in that vein, did the region have any concerns in response to the application? My apologies.
Through the chair, the region did have concerns with the driveway locations that were laid out, but they have added conditions for a regional road access permit, and the driveway locations can be dealt with at that time.
Okay. So through the chair, to confirm, the region, they are open to entertaining a road access permit, and that's correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Member Hanna?
Just a quick question for the applicant. I travel this section of Ottawa Street every day, come off that Ottawa Street ramp, and it's a nightmare trying to get on. You're taking the largest lot in the area and taking it to the two smallest, putting up brand-new homes, which technically could become duplexed, which 4 families would then access by reversing to the street. Most of the other homes in this area have created hammerheads on their front lawns in order to get in and out on the street. Did you ever consider tearing this building down and building a purpose-built triplex or fourplex? Therefore, you'd have parking in the backyard and you could have access through the existing driveway in a front fashion?
Through you, Chair, that is something that we did discuss with planning staff in the pre-consultation phase, but we determined it wasn't going to work for this property, just based on the space constraints.
Okay, I will have some comments when the time comes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Hanna. I just had a question for staff, and it's following up from what Member Hanna said. I'm kind of confused why we have this discussion in the staff report, saying, oh, suddenly we have the 2 smallest properties on the entire street, and I'm just wondering why that is a concern for staff, because it seems like these reductions that are being, these 2 small lots, they're modest lots, but they're kind of in line with, you can walk to smaller properties within the area. It's not out of the ordinary for the area, it's out of the ordinary for the street, not the area.
Yes, through the chair, staff identified the regulations for consent in the official plan just talk about general neighborhood compatibility. So that's what staff was identifying and referencing.
Okay, thank you. Save for that, I look forward to a motion, and let's remember that the applicant had requested to remove the tree preservation condition for whoever decides to put a motion on the floor for us to debate. Member Santos?
I'll put the motion on the floor to approve with amending, with removing, the tree preservation plan. So as recommended, but removing the tree preservation plan.
Madam Clerk, you here? So can I get a second for Member Santos' motion? Anyway, this is just for debate. We can vote it down if we don't like it. Thank you, Member Gudgeros. Appreciate it. I'm in support of Member Santos' motion. I think at the end of the day, it's not the big deal. Properties are pretty nice, but I look forward to other.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I guess this was being the last application. I missed this fact that they want to remove the tree preservation plan. Those who may know me know that have been accused of being a tree hugger for many years. So what is the onerous part of the tree preservation plan as outlined in the report?
The applicant, that's directed to the applicant, I presume?
Either to the applicant or staff. Staff has obviously included this, and I guess the applicant is wanting to remove it. I like tree preservation plan, so convince me that you're right and I'm wrong.
Through you, Chair, the tree inventory and preservation plan is not overly onerous. It adds a little bit of cost and time to eventually having these houses built. We've seen in the past that these can be removed on occasion as a condition, and so we wanted to request that.
Chair, can I have a follow-up, please?
Yeah.
Through you, Chair. How many trees are on the property right now?
Through you, Chair, I'm not sure exactly the number of trees on the property right now. There are several trees lining the property boundary. We don't intend on removing all of the trees, but okay.
There's 2 big ones and 16 small ones. Hi, everybody. Needy Modi, applicant of this. Hello. There is 2 big ones and 16 small little side ones.
Thank you.
Thank you. the committee knows my feelings. It is just arduous for small development. So doesn't seem like there's too much debates. Member Hannah?
Just so I can get my comments on the record and to help my colleague, the region has imposed a condition about an access permit, and they've made it clear in their comments that they want to restrict left-in and left-out turns to this property. The only way they're going to do that is to extend the median. So it'll be interesting to see what the access permits situation comes out, but it's interesting in the staff report that staff started out as a negative and turned to a positive, and I, quite frankly, started out as a negative, and I'm not sure I've changed. It's a very difficult stretch of Ottawa Street. I've seen some near misses there, and people don't like to reverse out because it's an unsafe situation. I think even though these lots meet the zoning bylaw, it's bad planning, in my opinion. I'm not going to be supporting, so, sorry.
Member Gundry?
Through the chair, just for the record, I do share those exact sentiments that Member Hannah mentioned. I have a lot of concern for personal safety of any future residents there if these lots are created. Ottawa's a very busy street. I know perhaps the region can be creative in allowing a permit, but I share the same sentiments. I know the lots meet zoning, but I agree that it may not make for good planning in this particular location. So.
I ask that my fellow members remember what Member Santos said during our 744 King, is that, you know, we might disagree with the test, but what we were deciding is the 4 tests. And yeah, ultimately we can disagree on whether the 4 tests are passed or approved, but we're not here to decide traffic planning. Yep, Member Hannah.
Just for clarification, there's no 4 tests here because it meets it meets the Planning Act. It's all about subdivision control, and safety is under subdivision control.
I think we're at a bit of an impasse here, so I guess we're going to put it to a vote. So all in favor of the motion on the floor, unless there's further debate? So all in favor of the motion on the floor? There's just me, and then all opposed has the motion on the floor? And then, so everyone else except me. Just for the, sorry, lost the train of thought. Was there any, for the applicant, is there a way that we can approve them, or everyone's just on the basis, no go?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just had a question of staff. Do we in fact have to put a motion to refuse on the floor?
Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you. Thank you, Member.
I believe the motion on the floor is to approve.
Which was just voted down.
Right, and it was voted down, so then it's refused.
So that's what I was trying to say. Thank you, Member Hannah. Great. So I guess we put a vote to adjourn the meeting unless there's any further business. So all motion to adjourn. Member Hannah? Yep. Second motion to adjourn. Member Gundry, and then all in favor of adjourning the meeting. So thank you very much. The meeting's adjourned.